everyone, I'm back for a project video today and I'm going to show you how to make these floral bookmarks. They're super easy to do, they're really fun, and I thought I would take you through how to do them. So here is some of the supplies, or actually all of the supplies that you'll need. Obviously some watercolor paper, so I have this watercolor paper already cut at bookmark size, 100% cotton. I'll put all the information down below. Some ribbon, the ribbon to put on our bookmarks once they are done, a hole punch, and obviously some paint and some paintbrushes. I'm only using 2 paintbrushes for this project. That's all I need. One kind of bigger one for some of the bigger flowers, and then a smaller one here to do some of the detail work. So let's get started, and this is what it's going to look like. A pretty floral mustard and burgundy bookmark. So there we go. So I'm going to start by obviously using one of my bookmarks here. Just put this in the center. There we go. And then I'll show you, actually all of the colors that I'm using today are from a palette that I really like. This Rico design palette right here, which has a really nice set of colors, and I'll put the details down below as I was saying, but obviously you can match it with the colors that you might have in your palette, or do whatever colors you think will look nice. So let me get started here by mixing my colors. And actually, I'm lucky to be able to film this video because there's been endless construction work going on near my house, and I live in a pretty quiet neighborhood, but there's been endless construction, and actually it's been really hard to find a moment without an excavator going absolutely mad right by my house. So I didn't think I would be able to film this, but here I am, a little break in the work, and I was able to film this, so I'm happy about that. Okay, so I'm going to use this burgundy color here. As I said, it's a really nice rich burgundy, and I'm just going to add some of the paint here in my palette, and then add a little bit of water, and actually maybe move this smaller paintbrush out of the way. Oops, it's on the floor now. I will pick that up. So let's get started. I have my burgundy color here. I'm adding, as I said, just a little bit of water so that it's not too thick and easier to work with. And I'm going to start shaping my flowers. So let's see here. I'm going to start with a flower right here, and all I'm going to do is kind of create a general kind of circle shape with my paintbrush. So my paintbrush, as you see, has kind of a tip here at the end. It's kind of tapered, and that makes it really easy to make that shape. So I'm just doing kind of a general kind of circular shape, but I'm making sure to make it obviously not perfectly like a circle, and I'm thinking of adding kind of like a little lid to the top, just like so, but then making sure that I'm leaving some white space in the middle here. And you'll see here, let me make another one. So I'm giving myself a little bit of space because I'm going to be putting some stems, so I don't want to crowd everything too much. And let's see, I'm doing that kind of general, I guess, semicircle shape with little strands at the top, and then I'm thinking about kind of closing that shape as if you were about to kind of put a lid on it, like so. And then let's see, I'm going to make a smaller one here, maybe in that little space here. Kind of do the same thing and think about kind of closing it right here. And you already have, in just a few little movements, that kind of flower shape, kind of maybe peony, maybe a little bit poppy shaped. I don't know. Tell me what flower you're kind of seeing. I'm definitely not copying per se a flower from nature. I'm kind of going by memory here. But I'd say that's kind of what it looks like so. That's a bigger one right here. And then let's see, let me make one in the little space I have available to me here, like so. And you see, if you use a bit more water, you get that kind of more lighter color, that kind of effect here. And if you do use a little bit more burgundy, you get kind of a deeper color with less of the white paper kind of shining through underneath. So that's up to you to decide what you'd like, and a variation usually is a nice way to kind of play with that. Okay, so I think I'm actually going to just put a little bit more. I'm just using it, just putting my paintbrush in my color here, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of darker tone, maybe here, maybe here, maybe here, maybe here. just to kind of create a little bit of variation. And then I'm going to wash out most of that color. So I just have a little bit left, but I'm going to wash out most of it, and then maybe just add just a little bit here to create a little bit of contrast. Get a little bit of those kind of lighter tones. There we go. So now my flowers, the base of my flowers is pretty much done. So what I'm going to do is I am going to get a hairdryer and dry this so that it's perfectly dry and I can continue with the rest of my flowers. So I'll meet you right back here. Okay, I'm back. My flowers are dry, and you can tell because they do look a lot more matte, less glistening. And if I touch, they're definitely dry. That's a good way to test that. So what I'm going to do now is move on to my stems. So I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use a Saint paintbrush for now and see how I do. This is a number 8 paintbrush, by the way. So it's kind of has a kind of a nice edge, but I'm actually able to do some detail work with it as well. And I'm going to use this color, this kind of green khaki color to do my stems. And I think, let's see here, I think those two colors work really nicely together, but you can kind of play around and see whatever green looks the nicest with what because you could choose obviously any other flower color. So you might want a green that's a little bit more on the blue side, or a little bit more on the yellow side. You kind of have to take a look and see what looks the best. I kind of like these two tones together. And so now I'm going to start with the flower at the top here. I'm going to use the very tip of my brush, and I'm just going to create 2 little lines kind of on the side, following kind of the angle of my flower, and those are going to be kind of where the stem kind of begins. And then I'll go ahead and make a little line here for my stem. I'm going to do the same thing here. And actually, I mean, painting obviously is the ultimate analog activity, is it not? But if you've been watching all of the kind of analog content online and how to kind of get off the screens and do things that might be actually bringing you much more joy, I think that not only is painting obviously one of them, but just having a bookmark that you like is one of the extra reasons to kind of want to reach out for that book at night and get all cozy and read your book that you can then kind of mark with a handmade bookmark. And I find that that's really kind of the ultimate analog activity. So there, I'm going to do another little kind of a leaf, I guess, at the stem here. And then a little line. So I'm not thinking about this too much, but the only thing I will say is that it is nice to not have all these stems go in the same direction, because if I had them all going in one direction, it would look very symmetrical at the end, and you might not know exactly what's wrong with your composition at the end, but it would look a little bit kind of trite and contrived. But if you do think about not having them always go in the same direction, you'll get something that looks a lot more kind of organic and natural. So there we go. I'll do my last one here. 2 little leaves. So some can kind of go straight into the beginning of your kind of petals, and then some can bleed a little bit on the side. I'll go for one like this. Then I'll take a look. I think I'll do the same thing and kind of rub some of my paint off until I have a bit of a lighter color, and maybe go over some of these leaves here to get a bit of a lighter tone, which I think adds a little bit of dimension in an easy way. So I'm just doing a few more strokes with my paintbrush here. There we go. And I highly recommend, by the way, buying bookmark watercolor paper, like watercolor paper that's already been cut in bookmark shape. It just makes it so much easier. Of course, you can cut it yourself, but you can actually find really nice quality paper that's already cut, and it just makes it so much easier. So I've dipped into this color here, this black color, and you might think, oh my goodness, adding black to beautiful, vivid floral flowers, why would you want to do that? But actually, using this dark color in the center, and I'll show you how I do it, really helps kind of bring dimension to your flower, and you'll see how they'll go from kind of, I mean, still beautiful, but kind of flat flowers like they stand now. And when we add our center in this dark tone, you'll see that it really makes them kind of pop and come to life. So for this, I am going to switch Actually, you know what? I'll start with this bigger brush right now. I'm quite partial to this one at the moment, clearly. But I'll start with this, this brush here. And then when I do kind of more defined work, I'll use my smaller brush that I showed you before. Okay, so let's see. I've loaded up my brush with my black, and I'm just going to think of kind of a triangular shape. So remember, this is kind of a circular shape. And I'm going to kind of do a triangular shape here to imagine the center of my flower. So not a perfect triangle, of course, but that's kind of the shape that I'm thinking of as I paint this. So see, I can connect it to my stem, or actually not touch it, but kind of have that be the bottom part of my kind of triangular shape. And you'll see, as soon as you do this, your flowers start kind of looking more real and getting that dimension, and it's pretty easy to do. So what you do want to make sure is that every time you do this on each flower, you're not getting that exact same shape. So be kind of free and relaxed with your hand as you paint this. But think about that general kind of triangular shape if you're needing a guide while you make it. So here we go. I'll do my last one here, like so. Perfect. And now, I might fill this in just a little bit. There we go. And now I will clean this brush and I will move on to my smaller brush, which I will pick up from the ground if you give me one moment. Here we go. Okay, so now I'm moving to this one here, which is an in-trend 0 brush. I have talked about these before for those who have followed my tutorials in the past, and they're very, very good brushes. As I said, for detail work, I think they're absolutely excellent and very inexpensive as well, which is a plus. So I'll load my brush for this. I don't want too much water, and I am just going to make little tiny dots on top of my triangles. So if you think about it, we're doing kind of a circle to begin with, then kind of a triangle, and now tiny little dots. So if you think about it and kind of break it down into these shapes, sometimes it makes tackling a project like this much more manageable. So I'm making some dots smaller, some dots bigger, some, you know, more like a little line than a dot, and that's all okay. You want that variety of shape. But tell me what you think. I think as soon as you add the little dots, you're really getting a beautiful sense of a flower now. So I'll go around here, and I do want to leave a little bit of white space like I did before, peeking through, because that definitely helps with the shape as well. So I'll add these right here, kind of little dots. Some can go more on the side of the triangle, some more just on top, like so. Okay, that looks pretty nice. There we go. I think I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, so now, let me see. I am going to move to this color right here in my palette, which is kind of a mustardy ochre color. And I'm just going to carry some of that color into my palette. Here, I'll switch you around so you can see that. Let's see here. There we are. I will add some of my color in here. And let me know, for those of you who read kind of hardcover paperbacks, tell me if you use a bookmark, and if so, what have you been using? I find that ever since I've been making my own bookmarks, the fun of using, kind of taking out a book at night it's already great to take the time to do that. Turn off your phone, turn off any other distraction and take out a book. But the idea to have a beautiful bookmark to kind of mark your page at the end has been an added source of joy for me. And also gifting them. These make amazing gifts, obviously. Okay, so I've loaded my brush. I'm still using the number 1, or actually 0, I should say. Sorry, 0. And I've loaded my brush with the color here. And I'm just going to add some little dots. Okay, so I often get the question, how do you make these dots look even? And the actual answer is that they don't look even. So if you look really closely, some of them are a bit smaller, some of them are a little bit bigger. But the key is to kind of hold a steady hand as much as you can. See, I'm resting my wrist on my table here. And I think the other key is to not think about it too much. Not aim to have the perfect circle, because if you do, your hand is probably going to move. It's not going to be a very enjoyable experience. And the idea is that it should look kind of random anyways, with every dot doing its own thing. So don't worry about it too much. Just go around the bookmark like so and make little dots until you're happy with how many you've added. And that's it. So I might actually look, should I make these dots bigger? These are all questions that I can address now. Let's see. I think I'm actually kind of happy with how this looks, but if you wanted, you can make a little bit less dots. Sometimes I make these a little bit bigger, but that's okay. I think this looks pretty nice. Just go over some of them if I want to. I'm just seeing if I want some to look a little bit bigger. Maybe connect this one here. There we go. That looks pretty nice, so I can show you from a little bit closer, and then this is what it looks like. And then what I'll do is I will dry this bookmark, and then we'll move on to threading it with ribbon. So my bookmark is dry now, and it looks like this. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut a little piece of ribbon. So I'm using this frayed fabric ribbon, this mustard colored ribbon here. So I'm going to cut a little piece of ribbon off, and I am using fabric scissors to do this. I find that you just get the cleanest cut, but obviously you can try it with another pair of scissors. But if you are having trouble getting that perfect kind of edge, using fabric scissors really helps. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half so it kind of looks like this. And then I think this is a bit long, but I will cut it after. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the side, and now I'm going to take just a simple hole punch like so. And let's see, I'm going to add a hole at the top of my bookmark. Oh, there's a little piece of paper here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, add a hole about here. So you don't want it too close to the top, because if you have it too close to the top, you risk kind of poking a hole through it. And well, you risk it kind of ripping and being unpleasant to use. So here we go. I've made the hole, and now I'm going to add in one side of my ribbon like so. I have my folded mark here, and then you can kind of decide how long you would want this to be. I'm first going to make my knot, so I'll go ahead and make just a simple knot here at the top like so, and then I'll kind of tighten this and make a second one so that it's nice and secure. There we go. So you can zhuzh it a little bit, get it to a place where you like it, like so. And then I think this is a little bit long, so I'll make it a tiny bit less long, but we're almost there. So I'm just going to cut on an angle here, like so, and see how nice of a cut you get with the fabric scissors. I think they do a really nice job. And there we go. We've got a beautiful homemade bookmark. So my bookmark is dry now, and it looks like this. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut a little piece of ribbon. So I'm using this frayed fabric ribbon, this mustard colored ribbon here. So I'm going to cut a little piece of ribbon off, and I am using fabric scissors to do this. I find that you just get the cleanest cut, but obviously you can try it with another pair of scissors. But if you are having trouble getting that perfect kind of edge, using fabric scissors really helps. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half so it kind of looks like this. And then I think this is a bit long, but I will cut it after. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the side, and now I'm going to take just a simple hole punch like so. And let's see, I'm going to add a hole at the top of my bookmark. Oh, there's a little piece of paper here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, add a hole about here. So you don't want it too close to the top, because if you have it too close to the top, you risk kind of poking a hole through it. And well, you risk it kind of ripping and being unpleasant to use. So here we go. I've made the hole, and now I'm going to add in one side of my ribbon like so. I have my folded mark here, and then you can kind of decide how long you would want this to be. I'm first going to make my knot, so I'll go ahead and make just a simple knot here at the top like so. And then I'll kind of tighten this and make a second one so that it's nice and secure. There we go, so you can zhuzh it a little bit, get it to a place where you like it, like so. And then I think this is a little bit long, so I'll make it a tiny bit less long, but we're almost there. So I'm just gonna cut on an angle here, like so, and see how nice of a cut you get with the fabric scissors. I think they do a really nice job. And there we go. We've got a beautiful homemade bookmark